Talking to the stars of today.
And the freshest talent of tomorrow.
Their story in their words.
This is the Learn, Develop, Live podcast.
In the spotlight.
Good morning! Welcome once again to the Learn, Develop, Live podcast with our latest episode of, drum roll please, or finger tapping on the table, In the Spotlight. Dramatic, eh? Yes, the interview format of the show continues with another episode, and I have to say, I've been quite enjoying these, speaking to real people about their real adventures and visions whilst they bring them to life. For this interview, I spoke with friends of the show, Kevin and Alex from the Talking Heads Footy podcast, and for those of you who have been following the Learn, Develop, Live adventure, you'll know I've appeared on their show a few times in different forms, and I've had a special Truth or Hard game with them for this show. Their podcast is all about football, the global sport, with a focus mainly on England's FA Premier League, with some European flavour added on top. There is plenty of banter, special guests, and of course, plenty of football from real fans for their real fans. Did that actually make sense? It's for real fans. Now, Alex on the show is a big Man United fan. Sorry about that. So I had one or two surprises for him as we went through the interview. Also, I have to admit, I had some dodgy microphone issues. So apologies for that. But it was the two guys who were answering the questions. They're the important ones in this one. So, in the spotlight, here is Kevin and Alex from the Talking Heads Footy podcast. Evening to the dynamic duo. How are you both today?
Yeah, all good, mate.
I'm all the better for being called a dynamic duo.
Oh, you said it and it kind of stuck. Yeah.
I still don't like it, but okay.
That's why Chris is my number one fan. I love you, Chris.
Well, there'll be no singing on this one, unfortunately.
Damn it.
So you're both good? How is,
excellent.
Lockdown treating you?
Yeah, do you know what? Yeah, do you know what? It's kind of one of those where you're just kind of at the mercy of everything that's going on. No one seems to know what is going on half the time, so I just sit at home.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I'm kind of just enjoying having the time to sort of like think about things and be a bit more creative with my thought process instead of having like the rigmarole of the day-to-day life. I mean, I'm still working at the moment, but it's like you can't always do exactly what you want to do. So instead of socializing all the time, I'm like just chatting to Kev all the time.
So you like spending some time thinking and developing your brain. What do you do with the other 23 hours and 55 minutes of the day?
I chat to you, Kev.
Oh, okay.
Even my girlfriend's like, Alex, all you do is chat to Kev. Why don't you chat to me that much?
I was going to ask if you're going through a midlife crisis. A lot of thinking.
I probably am. I'm already thinking about buying a Porsche. Is that a bad sign?
If it's a convertible, yes.
Yeah, convertible. Yeah. No. I'm good with it though. I'm comfortable with this midlife crisis.
Whatever makes you happy, son. Whatever makes you happy. So how do we all meet? I met Kevin a very long time ago in the ghetto of Wood Green Wolves.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, that was.
How long ago was that? That was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was still 1990 something, I think.
1999 or something.
I think it was 1999. Yeah.
There you go. So, yeah, it's been a long time. And Alex, I actually met you back in February.
Yep, we did. Back in the day of February, and it was probably not that cool as meeting in a Woolworths. I mean, it was just in my living room, really. Or the Talking Heads Football Podcast HQ, as I like to call it.
We're live in the studio.
Yeah, we're live.
But I remember the day that obviously we brought you round, and it was February, and this whole thing about coronavirus was only just sort of starting, and you had a bit of a cold.
Yeah.
You were coughing and sneezing and whatever, and be like, it's not coronavirus. And then literally like a couple of weeks later, the whole country just went into lockdown. I blame you.
Yep.
It's asthma. Honest. Honest. I'm still here. Wood. No. Yeah, that was. I just didn't want to cough for the recording, really.
No. That's very, very, very considerate of you. A lot of people they don't give a shit. They just cough anyway.
I think you did edit out very well.
Well, we did, yeah.
Well played. All right, so let's get on with questions then. So obviously, Learn, Develop, Live is all about taking your issue or whatever, developing a habit, blah, 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 and living your life on a high level. So I wanted to really focus on how you've kind of gone from two boys talking about football to having a podcast, which is getting stronger, getting bigger every week. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of what the questions are. I mean, you've had the questions, so no surprises. So you are two big football fans. Could you tell me how you got into the sport and what teams you support?
Kev, do you want to go first, mate?
Yeah. Look, I'm an Arsenal fan, and I have been since I was about 7 or 8 years old. I was also playing football as a kid. I mean, I was always outside. I know kids nowadays don't go outside; they don't see outside. But I was always one of those kids that was outside, kicking a ball up against the wall, or
not allowed outside.
Well, at the moment, yeah, kicking it against my brothers or sisters because I wanted them to go in goal. But my love for Arsenal started in around about 1993. I'd seen us win the double, and I remember Mark Bright breaking Andy Lindengen's nose and thinking, "You wanker." And then I went to my first game a couple months later at Highbury, and it was Arsenal versus Coventry, opening game of the season. Mickey Quinn hat-trick. We lost 3-0, but I was hooked, and I went to every single home game from then on in, and I couldn't get enough of it.
It's like a drug.
Really was.
God, I wish my start into football was as romantic as Kev's. Kev always he makes it sound so amazing. My one is literally like, as far as I can remember, all I've done is basically just kick a football.
It's worked in sales, you see. That's why
it does help actually. And he's so poetic as well. It's like, oh, the hat trick. the stadium is 2 minutes from my house. I can hear the crowd.
Not that far.
Yeah, Kev, let's be honest. You always say, like, I could throw a stone, I could hit the stadium from my house now. But no, pretty much as long as I can remember, I've just basically played football from a kid. I played all the way through school, realised I was pretty pacey, which always helps, and kicked the ball with both my feet, which at a decent level, which is nice, makes things easier. And in terms of a club, I support Manchester United simply because my dad's from Iran. I can see you both shaking your heads there. Look at the shaking. It's like synchronized shaking of the heads. But yeah, my dad's from Iran, and he supported Man United from over there. And then when he moved to England and he was living in Huddersfield, it's like, well, I'm pretty much there now. And I'm like, Dad, it's the wrong side of the Pennines. But you can't tell him that he loves them. And pretty much his passion for Manchester United has rubbed off on me. I don't think my relationship with my dad would be quite the same if I supported Arsenal, for example. He thinks they're scum and he hates them to death. I, on the other hand, I'm a bit more of I just love football, whether it's Man United, Arsenal. I mean, obviously Man United is my football club, but I can appreciate other clubs. And yeah, I just love it. I can't get enough of it. I love reading it. I love watching games. I love listening to podcasts, chatting to random people about football. My girlfriend Caroline was working up in Sunderland on the Sunderland Till I Die series. I couldn't help but go into bars and just chat to Sunderland fans and be like, what's going on, guys? And I think as I've just grown older, I've just enjoyed all the smaller details of football, like games that have gone past that I never got to witness from the 70s, and just being like, wow, what was football like then? What tactics were they playing? And that's just fed into this sort of like love of the game and the journalistic side of it all.
You had that series, didn't you? Where people, and I did it as well, how people fell in love with the game.
Yeah.
There's quite a good few stories in there about basically how it's come from grandparents, parents, all the way downwards.
Yeah, it's all part of it, I guess. I think the common denominator, even between myself and Kev, is that both of our dads love football. I love going around to Kev's house and chatting to his dad about football, and it's amazing because you can see the kind of conversations that Kev has with his dad, and it's just amazing to see the generation of that supporting, kind of like just moving down the ranks. It's a really special thing.
Yeah, it's the same conversations I have with my kids now.
Yeah.
And I think I said that when I did my submission was that you could talk to anyone. You could talk to a complete stranger, and you could spend hours just talking about football.
Oh yeah,
you
you do.
know the person, but you can do that.
Yeah. You know what? For a while, I was going over to Spain to practice my Spanish, and I whenever I go to another country, I love to either go to the local stadium and do a stadium tour if I can do it. If I can watch a game, even better. But one of the things I love doing is going to like fan bars and just chatting to fans. And my Spanish is okay; it's a bit broken, but you start to begin to understand the culture of that other football club, and that's just amazing. And it just goes to show what a global language football is. Even if you don't fully speak the language, you can still have a conversation about the passion of football.
You said that, it reminded me of when David Moyes went over to Spain and he had his first press conference.
Oh God.
And all the doors trans. Oh God.
Yeah, I'm probably a step up from David Moyes. Oh God. Yeah, his ill-fated spell in Spain. Jeez.
What a great Man United manager he was.
Oh yeah, it's like he came in like a wrecking ball, as a meme said, wasn't he? So, oh God, yeah, yeah. He seems to be doing a good job wherever he goes.
So you're both of you. Your love of football led to the creation of the Talking Heads Footy podcast. So where did the idea come from, and what is the story behind the name?
I'll go for this one. Pretty much, I'd always wanted a platform to kind of like talk about football, airing my views and opinions. I work in media already, and I just felt like I'm constantly creating content for a channel, which, don't get me wrong, I enjoy, but it's not my own content. And it wasn't really until I met Kev in a recruitment agency, and we were obviously colleagues, and I got to know Kev as more and more as a friend, and it just kind of began to kind of click. I was like, I've always wanted to do this podcast, and Kev wants to do a podcast, and Kev's really kind of like, well, let's fucking do it. And from that point there, it's just an amazing sort of journey of sort of challenging each other in terms of like our own opinions, bouncing ideas off of each other. I know it sounds a bit mushy, and Kev can run because Kev's always a bit like that, but it's a really special thing because our on-screen chemistry is not made up. As I said earlier on in the show, I literally just chat to Kev all the time, and that's an amazing journey to go on. And I don't think if I'd met Kev, I would probably be doing a podcast, just because I think at least I needed that person to kind of like connect the circuit and make it work. And just going back to your question, how did the name come about? It was literally Kev and I sitting in a cafe in Crouch End, and I was like, oh, let's just call it something like Talking Heads Footy Podcast. It's just as a working title. And we finished our first episode, which I just listened back to recently, and it was a really hilarious episode to listen back to. But it was that thing where Kev was just like, I'm going to post it, and it's going to be called Talking Heads Footy Podcast. I was like, whoa, Kev, let's stop for a second. Like, no, done, send. It was done, and just like that, Talking Heads Footy Podcast existed, and it's just amazing to just be producing content constantly with Kev. It's great fun.
Because the chemistry is really good between you two.
Thank you.
Another dynamic duo.
Oh yeah.
I've mentioned to Kev a few times about like I listen to one of my favorite podcasts is the Peter Crouch podcast, and there's a lot of chemistry between the three boys in that one. So in a way, yours sometimes reminds me of that, minus the Peter Crouchness.
Yeah.
All good. All right. So what? Okay, you got it all set up. You posted it. What so far has been the biggest challenge you've faced with getting it up and running?
If I'm honest, nothing. Our biggest issue actually was deciding what podcast host to use, and they're all pretty similar. I think we were quite lucky because Alex and I were extremely good at audio editing already. We were also good at Photoshop already, so we didn't have to outsource anything to anyone. We knew what sound we wanted. We knew what direction we wanted to go in, and we just sat down and did it. I designed the logo. I started doing the editing. It kept it very, very simplistic, and we knew the sound that we wanted. And yeah, I suppose the biggest issue really for us was making sure people listened to it. But when we first started, Alex and I agreed that we weren't putting out content for other people to listen to. We were putting out content for ourselves. So we wanted to make sure that the content we put out was good enough for us. And that's always kept us on our toes, because we'll listen back to it and we'll say, I don't think that was good enough. I think we need to develop this. I think we need to change this. And that's always kept the progression of the show moving forward. But with regards to issues and problems, we haven't actually experienced any challenges in any way, shape or form, if I'm honest. It's been quite a smooth touchwood transition from when we first started now. And that's purely because Alex and I listen to each other. And that's purely because Alex and I listen to each other, and we have a relationship where
you're listening to yourself. I don't know what Alex is doing. He's kind of
I don't know what he's doing.
My earphones keep dropping. I was like, no, I don't want to miss a word that Kevin's saying.
I'll say it again. Alex listens to me.
What's that, Kev?
No, but we have that relationship where we listen to each other, we listen to each other's ideas, and then we kind of just discuss which ones. No one's too sort of precious on any idea that we put forward. It's all very, very malleable. It's all debatable, and then we come up at the end of it with a final agreed product.
Yeah, very much so.
I would definitely agree with definitely the podcast hosting bit, because I spent quite some time pros and cons of both. One has this, but it doesn't have that bit. And I think in the end, Podbean was the one I went for. But then you see something else which another provider has. So
yeah, I mean, look, I had a look at all of them, and I was trying to figure out which one was the best one. And I looked on. We use Spreaker, and all I wanted was one that was simple, not too expensive. It cost about £8 a month, and it literally just puts it out to every single platform. That's all you need, really.
That was one of the things about Podbean. It actually does link in with Spreaker as well. So that, it's all winner. It's a winner. And I think they're not just providers that they just sit there and just, all right, that's your podcast. Was it recently? I think I've submitted mine to go on Pandora. There's a channel over in Asia that I can't remember the name of. Sorry, Asian supporters. And I think there was Amazon Alexa, which I told you about, and then you had it on there. So always growing.
Always.
Okay. So it's up and running. Before I launched my podcast, I did listen to a lot. Just see what's out there. Business, sports, music, motivational. In your opinion, I know you listen to a load yourself, what makes a good podcast?
For me personally, what makes a good podcast is ultimately, first and foremost, you have to be able to hear them. Like, the audio levels have to be good enough that whether it's somebody walking down the street listening to their podcast on their commute or on the train, or sitting at home and cooking, or just chilling and listening to a podcast, they need to actually be able to listen to your content. Because even you could be, have the best guests, you could be talking about the most interesting things. If someone can't hear you, it's very quick before they lose interest in it and they drop off. Next is the content. Ultimately, Kevin and I's tactic has been produce content that we both love. I mean, we've been listening and watching football for years and years and years. So we just took that approach where we're like, naturally, we've been indoctrinated into what makes good content. It's just about producing it yourself. So really, for me, a good podcast is the listening ability of it, like in terms of the audio quality, the content, and actually the characters. I mean, I'm not making it up, and I know I've gone back to this about Kevin and I's dynamic on the podcast. They don't know me. They don't know Kev. If they don't actually like me and Kev, why would they begin to even tune in and listen to us? That's ultimately what it is. Either we're telling a story, we're not bringing in amazing facts and figures from somewhere. This information, these facts and figures at the end of a football game, that's shared knowledge. If a player has done X number of passes and we mention it on the game, they could listen to that on our Sky Sports podcast if they wanted to. But it's how Kev and I deliver that content that people will want to listen to it. So ultimately, it's about having fun and producing content that's engaging.
Yeah, definitely how you present there's a couple of podcasts and I started listening to it and I'm thinking, how people, how has this got, I think there was one, I can't remember the name of it, basically it sounds like a computer robot voice.
Oh, wow.
And I just couldn't get into it. But it had X amount of thousand downloads and X amount of thousand followers. So maybe robot voices are a thing for some people.
Kev, take a note of that. Next week, robot voices. It's done.
Give it a go.
Get the people what they want.
There's a demand for it out there somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you think back to before you began the podcast, how does the reality of it all, which you're almost 40 episodes in, how does it compare to the vision that you both had at the beginning? And is there anything that you would change that you've already done?
So I'll start with the latter question first. Would I change anything? No. It's a journey. It's a journey that I'm very, very comfortable with. I feel like it's been very organic. When I think back to the episodes that we first recorded, yeah, they were quite ummy and ahry, and they were quite long. Probably a lot of maybe points that are being reiterated by other, like by Kev or by myself or by Angelo at the time. But the kind of like target that we were aiming for hasn't ever really changed. It's the feeling of 2 or 3 mates talking about football that comes up on a weekly basis. That has never changed. And what we've done is we've just distilled our knowledge and just sort of made it tighter and tighter and tighter until we've got something that's obviously still always going to be improving, but just a tighter show and better thought process that gone into it. Can I believe that we're 40 eps in? No, I mean, God, I mean, it's crazy to think that. I mean, we overcame like a whole lockdown process where we're like, fuck, how are we actually going to put this show together? Kev used to come around to my place every week. We didn't know how long that was going to be going on for. And then we were like, let's just do a Zoom thing. And this is where both of us have different elements where it was like on a technical level, I was like, well, why don't we just record it and strip the audio out? And then Kev, you edit it from your place because Kev had the laptop at the time. And before you know it, Kev set it up. He's sending the Zoom meetings out and we're going with it. So it's an amazing thing. And I just think like, I can't wait to look at it and go, wow, we're now another 40 episodes in. We got 80 episodes. It just keeps growing. And it's just, as I said, I'm always like a kid in a candy shop. I'm always so excited about it every week. I'm like, I can't wait for the next episode.
Yeah, no, I have to agree. I don't think there's anything that I would change at all. Like I said, it is a journey that you go on. And like I said at the beginning of the interview, if you're willing to listen, learn and adapt, your content will, as you move along, and it will get tighter and a lot better. And you'll find that as a presenter, you'll use 5 words instead of 20.
Yeah. And actually, in terms of the journey that you go on, there's always going to be hurdles. And it's not, oh shit, I've hit a hurdle. How am I going to deal with it? Actually, some of the best outcomes from a hurdle produce something absolutely amazing. Like the fact that, as I said, we had lockdown. So we got guests on the show. Obviously, we used to do the podcast with 3 people, myself, Kev, and Angelo. Angelo is no longer doing the podcast at the moment. So we had to think of a new way of dealing with that. And if you are able to think laterally and see that problem as just another opportunity to create something new and not be too precious with how it was originally, and it's constantly organic and changing, then I think that the content that you produce is always going to be exciting and interesting, even for yourself as a content producer.
I agree. I think the day I came around to record that episode, I think that was the Friday it was announced that there was no football.
Yeah,
and
it was.
At the time, you were both talking about, what do we call ourselves? The Talking Heads podcast.
Yeah.
What do we do? And to be fair, you come up with a series about how your people fell in love with football, and you had a couple of special guests on. Chambers and was one of your main highlights. So I think, yeah, you cope with that. And like I said, every mistake, every failure is an opportunity to learn from and bring something new to the party. So you've done well. You're still here.
Exactly.
40 episodes in almost.
Woohoo!
Wow. I think I'm coming up I've actually almost done 50. the week.
Wow.
I know. Still going though. Still plenty.
Century, mate. Half a century.
I know. Well, the week that it's going to come out, we're going to launch this series in the Spotlight series. That's going to be launched. It's going to be content heavy that week. Just to
Nice.
celebrate the fact that I've made it that far. So you're a part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey. So to carry on with you mentioned just now, originally you were a trio. Unfortunately, Angelo had to leave. Actually, on the back of the news when I told him about Spurs were the pancake champions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
World record of pancakes being made at Tottenham Crown. And then he left. So has it been difficult to go from the trio to the dynamic duo?
Probably going to sound harsh, but no, it hasn't been difficult. The transition has actually been quite easy. To be honest, like we keep saying, we have a fluid, organic show. So when something happens, we literally just sit down, discuss it between us, and then just think of something that we can do to move on and adapt the show. And funny enough, Alex and I have had conversations lately saying that we really, really do miss having a third voice on the show. We think that having a third voice adds such a great dynamic to it because you have a third opinion rather than just me and Alex talking about sport. You've then got someone else that brings that different dynamic to it. So, we do miss having Angelo on the show. We do miss his personality, but it hasn't been difficult to transition from going a 3 to a 2 because the majority of the content that we did was, majority Alex and I that put the content together. I would write the shows or Alex would write the shows and, we'd give Angelo content to kind of speak about and whatever. So in that respect, no, it hasn't been difficult, but we do notice the difference from listening to shows where we've had 3 people on to when we only have 2. We notice it and we feel that, we could probably do with a third person.
Yeah.
There was,
I think.
there was really good chemistry when you did the episodes about the Tottenham documentary.
Yeah.
And you could see it.
And it was. I was about to say that actually. It was nice to have Angelo back on for that episode. And we really, as I said, we kind of like felt that, oh, man, the lads are back together again, and we could talk about what we do best, which is about football. But to touch on the idea of having 3 people on the show, when Angelo left, it was very much a case of, well, actually, it opened up an opportunity to get a football fan on every single week to kind of fill the void that Angelo left. So I just said, like before, for every hurdle, we just changed it and did something else with it, and we've had a great opportunity to chat to fans from all across Europe so far. So it's been interesting in that respect.
Good stuff. So with football in the biggest sport on a global scale, and as I said earlier, you can talk to a complete stranger hours. Do you think this has helped you both in terms of being able to create relevant content and obviously find the guests that you really want for the show?
Yeah. It's because we're such big football fans, it's almost like creating the content. The only difficulty that we have is just making sure it's relevant every single week. And obviously with that, there's some things that Kevin really likes to talk about football. There's some things that I really enjoy talking about. And I feel like when we sit down and we think about what we want, generally speaking, we've got our ear to the ground of what other football fans are wanting to talk about. So, for example, in a week where, I don't know, Messi is looking like he's going to, leave Barcelona, and if we suddenly go off and talk about, I don't know, the Indonesian B League that no one's interested in, then, maybe a few Indonesian people might want to listen to that episode. But the fact of the matter is the vast majority of planet Earth are probably tuned into what's going on with Messi that moment in time. So then it's just a question of connecting those dots. And it's like, well, actually, neither Kev and I are going to be, specialists on Barcelona. Let's go out and find a Barcelona fan who's actually going to be, involved with that transition, emotionally connected to that situation. And that's one of my favorite things is thinking, right, this is what the news agenda is this week. How can we tap into that? How can we find that voice? Because ultimately, that's what I've always believed is the Talking Heads Footy podcast kind of like unique selling point, in that we are a soapbox where football fans from across the world can stand on and can share their views and opinions. And it hasn't disappointed for me. There's been weeks where, for example, with the Champions League final, we were like, let's go and find a Bayern fan. And we definitely found a Bayern fan. And they were like, you know what, do you reckon we can find a Paris Saint-Germain fan? And just simply through chatting to other football fans, we found one. It's amazing how that community all just adds up to itself.
Yeah, I think all the fans that you've had on have been quite passionate about the team. And it probably was quite difficult to get a Barcelona fan at the time.
It was tricky, but I think it's one of those things where I work in my area of television, that's my job, to just find people. And then you just dig and dig and dig. And then the question is, yeah, you can find people. Yeah, we could have gone online. We could have found a Barcelona fan. But do they really know about the club? And that's where Kevin and I's journalistic element come in, where we chat to them before they come on, because they've got to match the voice of the podcast. You can have someone that can just talk about club, but are they going to come on? Are they actually going to have fun with us? Are there going to be an energy to the show? Because I'd rather not have a fan on than have a fan on that doesn't make any sense at all and can't answer any questions. Because ultimately, it's mine and Kev's show. It's our content. And the person that comes on has to complement that and really bring an element that someone else who's not a Barcelona fan would go, actually, no, that person has a good point there.
What it also does, Chris, is it allows us to be able to delve into something like Barcelona. There was a lot of people online talking absolute rubbish, and what it allowed Alex and I to do was to go away and actually have a look at what was actually happening at Barcelona. What were the issues? What's happened since 2015? What happened? Why have they spent so much money and it's been a failure and whatever? Because we had to put these questions to, a Barcelona fan who was, one of the directors of the Peña Blaugrana for London. So they're going to know what they're talking about. So it allows us to, we can step up our game, and it actually makes it sound like we know what we're talking about.
Yep. When
probably we don't. No, I'm joking. We do. That's what my money for the Athletic subscription pays for.
Yeah, got to love a bit of an Athletic.
Okay, we touched on it a little bit earlier. And I felt it was a real turning point with your podcast when you did start to have the guests come on. Real football fans, as you said, real football fans with real passion for their club. Has this seemed like a greater interaction with your own listeners as well as bringing in brand new ones?
Yes. Yeah, we always get a good response when we have fans on the show. We always have, it's always quite positive where we get people that will come up and say, oh, that Bayern fan was a bit passionate, wasn't he? But then also, in return with that, we also have people that are new to the show that will then come up and say, oh, fantastic, you listen to the show for the first time, it's great, blah, blah, blah. But that wasn't really why we did it. It wasn't really, that's just a benefit of doing it. What Alex and I wanted to do was actually just connect and chat with fans.
Yep.
We just wanted to sit there and talk for 30 minutes about something that we weren't kind of au fait with. We don't know the ins and outs of Sunderland or German transfers or anything like that. So, and the fact of the matter is, neither probably do 90% of the country if it's not your club. What better way of allowing people to find that out? And it's all topics that Alex and I want to find out about. So anyone you have on the show, anyone you listen to on our podcast, is a subject that Alex and I think, you know what, we'd like to know more about that. So we're going to get a guest on and we're going to talk to them. So it's all very, very selfish in that respect. But it is. It is.
No, you're right. It is.
It's all very selfish. It's all very much like, well, Alex and I want to know about it. And we've got an idea that we want to get a football agent on. We want to talk about football agents. We want to talk about transfers, what happened, the ins and outs. And we want to try and make it a little bit more transparent, because that's what Alex and I want. It's not about, for us, what the listener wants. It's about what Alex and I want, and then hope that the listener then will go away and enjoy the content we put out.
And generally speaking, on that point, I'd say if we're interested in it, if we're wondering, oh, how does an agent work? then the chances are, if we're thinking that and we've been watching the game for years and years, there's probably someone else out there who's gone, actually, that's a really good point. How does the whole process of buying a player start? Or how does a scouting network start? Or, what is it like being a football fan ultra for Marseille? What's that like? How do you get into it? These are things that I've been wondering. So I'm sure someone else is probably wondering as well.
Yeah, and doing the interviews was kind of a little bit scary at the beginning. We were a little bit like, we want to get people on the show. So that's we used the lockdown as a way to kind of develop our interviewing skills, because, we developed the series, the How I Fell in Love with Sport series, and our first couple of interviews that we did, I mean, they were bad. I mean, one of them we couldn't even put out. It was that bad because they just took control of the interview and just started going off on different tangents and whatever. And it literally was just like, well, that we just can't use that.
And you know what? On that note, that was a big turning point there, because I came off from that chat and I was really pissed off. I was like, fuck, that was shit. That was really not good. And I called Kev up literally as soon as the show was finished. I was like, Kev, that content's unusable. I wouldn't want to listen to that shit for half an hour. I do not want to put that out. But I didn't. I said, that's just my opinion, Kev. You go away and listen to it and let me know what. Kev came back. He's like, yeah, mate, no, we can't do that. I didn't want to listen to it. And that's it's not a question of just putting content out for the sake of it. You've got to think as editorially what sort of content you want to put out there. So it's a very interesting process.
But that was kind of like a baptism of fire. That was the first ever interview that we did, and it was a baptism of fire. And it was very much we need to take control of these interviews.
You're kind of you're letting someone kind of take over your product. And if the interview was as bad as you say it was, then you can see that you kind of just took control again by not putting it out and discussing.
Yeah, you have to be.
I don't like that.
No, you have to be precious about your content ultimately, because obviously there's a process of being not so precious that you won't put anything out, but you got to be precious of like, hey, this is my platform, we've invited you on, and it has to mesh. You can't have a jarring sort of show. You want someone to listen to it and go, wow, that was really informative. That's amazing. Not just a giant plug.
So was it just a lot of rant and raving?
Yeah.
It was just one big plug. It was just one big come on, I'm amazing and what I do is amazing, and didn't really want to talk about anything else. So we couldn't put it out because it didn't sound like something we would put out, but used that as a learning curve. Then when the next interview come along and the next interview, to the point where we interviewed Dwayne Chambers. Do you know what I mean? So
it's a great episode.
Yeah. It is. It really was. And anyone at home couldn't see my little hand action there, but it was basically like a graph. It went up from like literally bottom of the scale. It went off the Richter scale, and we're like Kevin and I came off our chat after chatting to Dwayne Chambers. Like, we just chatted to Dwayne Chambers. Like we this is like sitting back to our little tea and coffee over in Beam and Crouch End, and now we're chatting to Dwayne Chambers. We've actually put content together with that. Or we're talking to Michelle, a die-hard Sunderland fan who has been on Sunderland till I die. This is stuff that we couldn't even dream about at one point, and now we're actually doing it.
We're living that dream.
Living the dream, man.
I definitely see anyone that you've interviewed as kind of like a specialist in their team. So, like I say, diving in and really find out what the real fans are saying and what they're thinking. That really does work.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that kind of falls on to the next question about who your favourite guest is and why.
Okay.
Go on now, you go first.
I'll go first. My favourite guest, I mean, to be honest with you, I loved all my guests. I think they've all brought something interesting to the show. But for me, having Connor Hall on the show, who plays for Harrogate, should I say, for me was just amazing, because we just got this football player on. We've always been talking about getting a football player on, and Kev was just like, Alex, I'm going to email him. I'm going to email his agent. I'm going to see if we can get him. And then I just remember being at work and my phone pinged and I was just like, Kev's like, I got him. I was like, shit, we've got Connor Hall. And then he was such a lovely guy. And he, it really was a very, very concise interview. Like, we didn't have loads and loads of time with him. The guy did the interview sitting in his car after football training. He did not need to chat to us. He just helped his team get into League Two for the first time.
He's on
Wow.
cloud nine, that boy.
Yeah, and he was lovely. And it was just like, when we're actually talking about football with a football player, what more could you ask for? I don't give a shit whether it's like Lionel Messi or whoever. We're talking to a real football player. This is how far we've come. So for me, that was like, chatting to Dwayne Chambers was amazing. You know, chatting to football fans is amazing. But to actually chat to a football player who scored in a playoff final, wow, that's amazing for me.
He probably would have been quite a lot of demand at the time as well.
Yeah, he was.
He was. He was very much in demand. And that was kind of the message I got back from the agent, was it put it to him, but he's very, very busy with other things because of what obviously just happened. And I just sent a real nice email saying, you know, thanks for your time, blah, blah, blah. We're just trying to improve our platform, and, you know, we want to catch him. I think it'd be really nice. And he went back with his mobile number and said, yeah, there you go.
And that's how it starts.
And that's how it started. So, you know, if anyone out there is wondering how to get guests on, literally just email and ask. And we have actually turned down a very huge guest purely over the fact that they wanted money, and we refused to pay, because I'm not paying someone to come on the show. And they were a huge, I mean, talking, you know, 2.5 million followers on Twitter, and, you know, just a massive person. So yeah, it's not all about just who you are. We want to get the right people on that actually want to come on the podcast, and they want to talk to us. For me, my favorite guest to be Dwayne Chambers. You know, we were chatting to Olympic athlete, and we really got to understand what it takes to be an elite athlete, and the mindset of an elite athlete, and also mental stability and the mental capabilities that someone has to go through what Dwayne has gone through, then come back and then compete in the fastest race in history. It's just such an amazing story. And if anyone hasn't listened to it, go and listen to it, because it is such a great story. The show, I mean, he's such a nice guy. There was lots of banter. He just loves to joke and laugh, and you learn about his childhood. It was just such a nice interview to do.
Oh yeah. It was amazing, and I was genuinely laughing my head off when I was chatting to Dwayne. I was like, wow, this guy, you just get a real person, a real, you know, Olympic athlete chatting to you, and he's just the kind of guy that you just want to go and have a beer with and a chat with. You know what, I just had another thought. Another guest that's definitely up there on my list is Chris Williams, the journalist. He is such a lovely human being. Like, Kev and I were looking for someone to talk about the Bundesliga transfers, bringing in young players from England. And I was just like, man, I really need to find someone. I was reading through my Mundial magazine. I saw his name in there. I saw his Twitter handle. I reached out to him. And he's just, I go as far as calling Chris Williams a friend. He's just such a lovely human being. And he's just always available to chat to us. And he's just a cool guy. And he's a journalist. He makes a career about talking about football.
He's so knowledgeable. So knowledgeable, yeah.
Twice.
And we bear in mind, the second time we had him on was during the Europa and Champions League, and he was chock-a-block. He was doing BT Sport. He was on all different platforms, but he made time to chat to me and Kev, and that is a massive compliment.
We love you, Chris.
Love you, Chris. And Chris Jags as well. We love him as well.
Yeah.
All Chris. We love all Chris's.
All Chris's. So who would be? Who is the dream guest?
Okay, so dream guest for me, if we're talking football related, my football related guest would have to be Paul Merson. He was my favourite player growing up. Seeing now as an adult what he's gone through in life and come through the other side, I would love to just be able to chat to him about football and life just for hours. And believe me, I have been trying to get him on the show, and I won't give up until I'm chatting to him, you mark my words. But if it was non-football related, I would go for David Attenborough.
Oh, what a choice.
I just love that man. I could talk to him for ages, just about anything.
Currently in the news, isn't he? Just come onto Instagram
I follow him on Instagram, and I've watched all his stories and shared them all, and man, just wish someone would wrap him in cotton wool and just keep him safe and just alive forever. Because the guy's a national hero. He's a national treasure.
Yeah, he really is.
I think he went on Instagram and he went up to at least 1.3 million followers in less than 1 day.
We all love him.
It shows how much he's respected. But I think there was it last year? There was someone on Love Island that said, who is it? Who is he? You just facepalm yourself.
But they're Love Island contestants. What more do you have to say?
Yeah, it's true. Okay, all good.
I mean,
Carry on, sir.
if I was going to choose someone, I was, when the questions came through, I was toying around with this idea for so long, and I choose this player, then I choose that player, and I change my mind. And I just think right now, at this moment in time, I'd love to just have a sit down and have a chat with that Sir Alex Ferguson. I think that's like the ultimate for any Manchester United fan. And I just think football fan in general, because he's such a powerhouse, and he's seen the Premier League from the beginning. He's managed Manchester United into a position where they're the most successful club in Premier League history. And I just imagine him just having some really amazing anecdotes just about players and about, the dressing room or decisions that have happened. If we had like a no holds bar chat with Sir Alex Ferguson, that would be amazing.
I think one of the things with Alex, I'd like to ask him about Henry. I recently saw in one of those Sky Sports, Premier League legends, and he actually turned down Henry because he said he's always injured.
Wow.
Now.
Hold on, how much you can read into that, because you've got the fact that Arsene Wenger used to come out and say, I tried to sign Messi, I tried to sign Ronaldo, and he almost get itches like, oh, shut up, you old codger.
Like a world all-stars that Arsenal had.
Yeah.
Okay, right, so a couple of football-related questions for you now. Okay, football. You feel calm, nice and relaxed?
Yep, go for it.
Okay. So when I appeared back on your podcast back in February, which seems a very long time ago, I gave you my 5 all-time favourite goals. If you had to pick just one, what would be your favourite goal of all time?
Okay.
Oh.
Well, for me...
Before Alex answers...
I don't want Alex to answer, because if he says Ryan Giggs in the semi-final at Villa Park, I will stop this recording now, get in my car, and drive to his house and give him a bit of a slap. So,
I just want to confirm that it did cross my mind, but actually there are other goals within the footballing world that I don't need to go to.
What's your favourite goal?
You know what? Don't get me wrong. The Ryan Giggs goal is absolutely amazing, and I loved it. And I remember watching it with my dad, and my dad saying, "Alex, this is one of those memories where you're going to think back when you're, old and grey, that you watched that goal and it was amazing." But I'd probably choose one of the goals from the Champions League final, like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's goal. Absolutely amazing. The jubilation. So from a Man United fan, I'd probably say Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's goal, because that was the goal that clinched the treble, which, it's huge. And I don't see Man United doing that anytime soon. Maybe not even in my lifetime at this moment.
No, do you know what? Go on.
But I'll let you go, because I've got another goal, but I'll let you say your piece.
Yeah, do you know, for me, very, very similar. I mean, there was loads of goals that I could have picked the Henry goal, opening goal against Manchester United, where he flicks it up and just lobs it into the top corner. What a goal that was. Sylvain Wiltord winning the league at Old Trafford. There were so many different goals that I could have chosen.
A lot of Man United related.
Kev,
there was the David Black goal where he jumped up and headed it from the edge of the box and built beat Fabian Barthez on one Sunday afternoon when we beat them 3-2 at Highbury. Just so many different goals I could have chosen that were amazing. But the goal for me, my favourite goal, was Tony Adams versus Everton, final game of the season, 1998. When Steve Bold chipped that ball through and he run on, I was thinking, what are you doing? He chested it down, volleyed it, and I was like, he literally is the best striker in the league at this particular moment. And he turned around, put his arms up, and I swear I almost cried. I was almost in tears. The jubilation of us, that was the fourth goal. We literally won the league for the first time since I can remember. But I wasn't even alive the last time that Arsenal won the league, and that was just so huge. It was just the greatest thing I've ever seen.
I tell you what,
there's a comment from Lee Dixon which said that he'd never seen Tony Adams ever do that even in training.
Yeah,
to see him that far up.
I don't know what happened. It literally was. Steve Bold just literally became, I don't know, like Luis Figo with this chip through. And then, Tony Adams became Ronaldo. And it was like, what happened? What has Arsene Wenger done to these players? You know what I mean? What has he been putting? And it probably was the protein shakes, if I'm honest.
Tell you what, if I'm going to talk about goals, I mean, from a Man United perspective, the Ollie goal is my favourite. But other notable goals, 3 notable goals that really stood out for me. The Ronaldinho toe poke against Chelsea. Oh my God, that was just like, it blew my mind. It was just like Ronaldinho at his peak. He's that good. He can toe poke the ball past Peter Cech from the edge of the box, and everyone's just watching it like what's just happened? I've got the Roberto Carlos free kick against France. That blew my mind. I remember watching it with my dad, how the ball went away from the goal with the outside of his boot and cut back in again.
I think that was my number 2.
Yeah, it's an amazing goal. Absolutely classic. And the other one I would choose is watching Rivaldo score a bicycle kick, and that took Barcelona into the Champions League spot.
See, I thought you were going to say one of the greatest goals that you see, because it's one of the greatest goals I've seen in recent history. It was the last game of the season, Man City versus Man United, who was going to win the league.
The fuck, man?
Aguero pops up and just bangs it in the 95th minute, whatever it was.
It's funny. It's funny you should say that. And I'll tell you why it's funny you say that. So hang on. By all words of technology, if this works, I think it's sharing the screen now.
Can I put it on mute?
I'll just play. Let's just listen to this.
I can see it playing.
Here we go. Look at that. What a moment.
Oh no. I remember. Prick. He even stole.
I mean, look at that.
Fucking hate City.
Alex. Drink it in.
Do you know what? Like,
I've had that just sitting there waiting.
I know you did. Look, you did the same thing when I did our Ultimate 11 as well.
That's because you put Van der Sar in front of Schmeichel.
Do you know what? I must have like not had my Weetabix that day because it wasn't happening. But yeah, you know what? Fuck City. They lost today anyway, so screw them.
Okay. So leading on to now, back in episode 19, you had a very much debated and comical at times best combined Arsenal and Man United starting 11. Now, look, you obviously had your favourite players from both teams, and there's a little bit of tit for tat and who should be there. But who would be your favourite player of all time? Man United or Arsenal wise, those are 2 clubs, and non-club. So 2 players, 1 club based and 1 just whatever.
Oh, man. Kev, do you want to go first?
Okay. So my club player, my favourite player of all time, Thierry Henry. I don't think there needs to be much more said about that. One of the greatest Premier League players of all time, better than every single Man United player that has ever stepped foot on a pitch. Yes,
Kevin, enough, mate. I let you go with the Aguero thing, but this is getting too much now. He's a good-looking guy as well. Did you add that in? He's a handsome man as well, Thierry Henry.
Well, I wasn't looking at him. I was just watching him score goals against United.
I was going to say, I thought you may as well add that in because you've already said he's an amazing player. He scores lots of goals. You may as well, say he's a handsome man and he's got a great French accent as well.
Yeah. And if I had to go for someone non-club related, I I know Alex is going to kill me because I'm probably stealing his, but I'd go for Ronaldo, like original Ronaldo.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy was just phenomenal. Like, he was just phenomenal.
Yeah, he was. Oh man, those are some good choices. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. Like, I think Thierry Henry, from a footballing fan's perspective, is absolute beast. I still like secretly watch goals of him and like, oh man, I wish I could open my body up like he doesn't just slot it into the bottom right hand corner. So, but from that ultimate 11, just for wing play, I'd go for Ryan Giggs. His longevity, his input into the Manchester United side. You know, he was part of, you know, a youth side that, you know, ultimately was the jewel in the crown of that, alongside obviously Paul Scholes. But just a dynamic wing play, just absolutely fierce, and he's just kept on going late into his 30s. Just a legend upon legends. There won't be players like Ryan Giggs anymore for clubs. I just don't think it's going to happen that way anymore. It just doesn't. That's not the landscape of football anymore. And I feel kind of blessed to have watched him in his prime. It's amazing. People will look back and they'll.
I don't think there's anyone even anywhere close to that at Man United at the moment.
No. What we need to do is go and take a couple of strands of Ryan Giggs' hair and make some more Ryan Giggs. Basically, that's what we need to do, and maybe blend it with a little bit of Roy Keane, a little bit of Scholes, and then just
Jurassic Park here with football.
Basically, yeah. And then just have them all underneath Old Trafford in sort of like this sort of weird sci-fi sort of like.
But would they
test tubes?
If you make loads of Ryan Giggs, would they all sleep with their brother's wife?
Would, yeah. That's part of it. That's the arrogance of it. That's what makes people winners. And I think my player that I would choose non-club related has to be Ronaldinho. I love Ronaldinho. Like, I could watch clips from him all day. He's the embodiment of what Brazilian football is all about. He plays with a smile on his face. He's so fucking good that Real Madrid fans stood up and applauded him. That's when you know you're at a level that no one else can touch you at. When you can go to your bitter rivals and all the fans in the stadium will stand up and applaud you. He made football joyous. I could watch Ronaldinho all day. It's so much fun, and that's what football is for me. Yeah, it's about aggression. Yeah, it's about, you know, technique, but it's about having fun ultimately. And I mean, I wished he would have come to Manchester United. We didn't get him, and he went to Barcelona instead. But he's a joy. I love watching Ronaldinho play.
I think what you just said about the fans, or the rivals, similar thing. That's how pretty much Juve got Ronaldo.
Yeah.
Although their kick.
Oh yeah.
Juventus fans just applaud him.
That's when you put yourself up on that pedestal that no one can touch you on.
Yeah. Fair play. Now Alex.
Yeah.
Speaking as a Man United fan.
Yeah.
I have to ask you your opinion on a recent piece of theatrics. From, funny enough, the Theatre of Dreams.
Oh yeah.
Now picture the match. You may have seen this clip. Man United versus Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
Just last week, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Lost.
Yeah.
Awful.
It was
But
awful.
the moment I remember, it's just one clip, you may have seen it, of Bruno Fernandes.
He has seen it. I sent it to him, but carry on.
Hate fest. You've been invited. This is a trap. You just invited me on just to shit on my club, mate.
But for anyone that's not seen it, and I will put this clip on YouTube, so I found it on YouTube eventually. I'll put it in the show notes. Fernandes somehow clips himself in the air, like he's just been fouled, with no one in sight. Now, who's your number 9? Is it Martial?
Yeah.
Now, from the clip, even he stops looking confused. And it's just art. It's pure art. And if you'd like, I'd like to share it with you right now. Just to get your take.
You know, Kev, you didn't even put this in the questions. I haven't seen this.
This is not in the questions.
I've been completely blindsided.
Oh,
you know what?
It's all lovely.
I'm going to get my own back.
Now, hang on. Let's do a bit of screen sharing again.
Kev, I'm not even joking. You're on my Christmas list of Christmas cards. I'm just taking you off, mate.
Look. Bear in mind, it's a bit of music. It's no talking, but let's just watch this now. Oh, he's just been shot in the leg, just like that. Again.
That's not a good. It's just not a good look, is it?
What's that about? As a Man United fan, what's your view on that?
It's not good. It's not. Basically, the situation is this: is that I love Bruno Fernandes. I think he's absolutely brilliant. He's been talismanic since he's come in. But
I'd say he's that good. He can score a penalty when the match is finished.
Yep. Don't you guys wish you could do that as well?
We don't have Fergie time.
No, you don't have Fergie time. We've got Fergie time. No, that for me, as I said, from a football fan's perspective, that's everything that's wrong with the game. I hate it. And I go as far as saying that I think that's what VAR should be used for, is to go back and go, yeah, don't do that. We're gonna book you after the game's finished, because if they knew that was going to happen, then they wouldn't do it anymore. And what we'd see is a purer form of football.
Very true. Okay, it's an honest answer.
Yep.
I like that. So, right, going back to the legendary tag of the dynamic duo.
Oh yeah.
And I thought this was quite an interesting question when I was thinking about this one. So, if you were a strike partnership together,
yep,
pairing past or present, do you think you two together would most be like?
Well, when I saw the question, I thought, you know what, we're like Hall and York. That's what we're like. And then I thought about it, and I thought, actually, we're probably more like Bentner and Shamak, to be fair. You know what I mean? Like, I'm starting to lose my hair on top. I'm going to have a bit of a comb over. Alex claims he's great at football, probably, you know, a bit shit. So I just think that's probably what we're more like, to be honest.
You can't. I'm the greatest. I'm the greatest in the world.
Shamak, that takes me back.
God, jam whack.
And you, Al?
I was being more sensible with the answer, and I would have gone for a Niall Quinn and Kevin Phillips combo, big man, little man combo.
Ooh, that was a good combo.
That was very, very productive. Lots of goals. I like lots of episodes, all quality, and dearly adored by their fans.
Look at that big cheesy smile that he's got on his face.
I was just going to say, if anyone listening, if you could see the smile on Alex's face.
Yeah, you could do a screen grab if you want from that and put it out on your feed.
The only screen grab I'll have will be of the Aguero goal going in.
Yeah, Chris, you know what? You've just joined the list. You were on the Christmas card list. You've gone into the non-Christmas card list. That was a 3-strike. It's a 3-strike policy, bro. It's 3-strike policy.
You don't want a Christmas card anyway because of COVID, so it's fine.
And Christmas probably been cancelled anyway. So
yeah, Santa didn't survive COVID. I'm actually selling letters. As I normally do each year, but this time they're different. Santa hasn't survived COVID this year, therefore there'll be no Christmas.
Oh, damn.
Okay, before we wrap this up then, I've got a couple of questions left for you.
Cool.
If you can say what's next on the journey for yourselves and for the brand, if you can even say it, of course, might be top secret.
Well, Kevin and I have been talking about this quite a lot, as we do. And I say it has to be video content. People have to see how amazing we look. This cheesy smile. I mean, the world is lacking without this cheesy smile on the screen. No. Jokes aside, I just think I feel there is a bit of a ceiling with podcasts. I think that generally speaking, yeah, it's a great starting platform to producing content on, but ultimately there's a whole, myriad of things that you can do with video content. And I just think it'd be fun and engaging, and I think that will keep us on our toes as well. So I think really that's our next stage.
Yeah, I agree. That's why we've got the content printed. That's why we've gone out and bought a video camera. So we literally we're good to go. And one of the ideas that we have is to go to different grounds, interview fans before the game, interview the same fans after the game. We can't do that when there's no fans allowed in the stadium. So the plans are on hold at the moment, but as soon as everything gets back to normal, video content is where we're going.
I think the dream that Kevin and I have been speaking about as well is doing a road trip as well. Talking Heads Footy podcast road trip.
To Italy.
Yeah, to the San Siro.
Yeah, before it gets knocked down.
I think even with your like your interview recordings, that could be a good start for video content as well.
Yeah,
obviously, if they're not, too explicit in places.
Yes. Yeah.
I tend to swear quite a bit. Actually, I realise how much I swear. I'm really sorry, Chris. I've been swearing all over.
Right, the smile makes up for it.
But they can't see my smile. You have to drop the no, they can't see it.
Okay. So yeah, in general, what advice would you give someone wanting to pretty much do what you've done? Take a passion and kind of make some of it.
To be honest, just go for it. Sound isn't going to be perfect, but if you're willing to adapt and learn, then everything will be absolutely fine. You kind of have to take the attitude of, you have to have a direction that you want to go in. You have to have an understanding as to where you want to go. So I would say that if you wanted to do it, have a clear understanding of how you want your content to sound. But then, as I said before, just try it. Then put the content out, test the water, and then just keep adapting. As long as you're happy, just keep doing it. And that's kind of the attitude that we had. We just put a show out, and like Alex said at the top of the interview, he wasn't particularly happy that I literally just went, done. I messaged him and said, it's done, it's out. And he literally was having a panic attack, going, "Oh my God, what have you done? Like this, it wasn't good enough. It wasn't this." And I just said, "No, look, we're never going to be happy. Even now, we're still not happy with the content really that we put out. We're so hypercritical. People will say to us, 'Oh, that was a great show,' blah blah." And I listen back to it and I go, "Yeah, but I didn't like the way that sounded. I didn't like the way that sounded." You've just got to roll with it. You've just got to put it out and then go. Don't be too precious with that. You can't. You've just got to go for it. If you've got an idea, do it. Something you can talk about passionately, do it.
I 100% agree on that. I think the other thing I'd probably say is that good sound quality doesn't actually have to cost an arm and a leg. We started off with a shotgun Rhodes mic. It wasn't that brilliant. The editing software was free with Audacity. You can't really knock that. And really, when you think about it over the course of a month, if you could save up enough to get a Yeti mic, what costs you 160 odd quid? I'm sure if you thought about it logically, just to spend a little bit to make sure you've got that sound quality, it means that you're invested in it ultimately, and you benefit from it.
To put it into perspective for anyone that is listening to this that does want to do a podcast, all of the segments at the beginning of our podcast for the first 10, 15 episodes were recorded on a High School Musical USB microphone that I plugged into my laptop. It was my sister's, and I just recorded the segments off of that and edited them off of that. So it really doesn't have to cost you an arm and leg to get started up. It really doesn't.
God bless your High School Musical.
Now, why did you ever lose that mic?
I don't. It's sitting here.
That's the backup.
It's just a backup. Yeah.
Once we one day get our own studio, we're going to put it in a little glass cabinet, put it at the back there. This is the original microphone.
Very nice. Very nice. I completely agree with you. It's just put something out there. It's not going to be perfect, and you're always going to find something wrong with it. But put something out there. And as in terms for recording, I mean, it's only now that I've just started using a Yeti. I have been since the very beginning recording on my phone.
Yep.
So there you go. Voice record on your phone. Again, Audacity, great piece of kit. And it's produced almost 50 episodes.
And I guarantee you, Chris, no one listening to your show would know that you recorded on your mobile phone. It's only because you told me that you do that I knew that you did. But apart from that, you wouldn't know that. I mean, you don't need to spend a huge amount. You don't need to invest a lot. You just need an editing software, podcast host, and just go.
Yep.
Good stuff. Yes, it's all relevant, and let's get out there, people. Okay, so here we go now. Quite a special moment, and it kind of rolls on something that I was talking to you, Kevin, about being able to show the kind of guests that you've had and having some sort of record of it all. And so, this series in the spotlight. we're having some sort of wall of quotes. And this is my tagline here. A collection of special motivational and inspirational quotes that mean something to each guest. So, you gents, if you each had one quote or just one piece of go-to advice, what would that be?
Well, I'll go first. This is one that I say to, and Alex will testify to this. I say to Alex all the time: don't be too precious or attached to anything that you make or produce. Just let things be malleable.
Very nice.
It's a very good quote.
Poetry.
Yeah. But it's something I say to Alex all the time. I make a lot of content, and Alex will come back and go, I don't like that. I don't like that. That doesn't work. Blah, blah, blah. Let's move that in. Let's move that in. And I'll sit and I'll move it and I'll adapt it and whatever. And, Alex always says, oh, that's quite a cathartic experience, like going through that process with you. And it's like, I'm not precious with stuff that I produce. I want it to sound good. It's always nice to have a second or a third ear to then come back. And that's always the advice that I would give to someone. If you make content, you think it sounds absolutely amazing, because when I make content, I always do. I think, oh, that sounds really good. Alex will listen to it and go, I think it could be a little bit tight at the beginning. I think you could move a few things around. I don't sit there and go, no, I'm not doing that.
No.
I take on board what he said, and then I just move stuff around and I come back with something else. And Alex goes, much tighter. And I go, do you know what? You're right. That sounds really, really good. And that's the attitude that you need.
And it works the other way around. It's not one way. Like, I don't just say that to Kev. Kev does the same thing for me, but like, actually, Alex, what about this? Have you ever thought about doing that? And that's the beauty of it. That's when you know you've got a successful working partnership there, because you would expect your colleague to be your biggest critic in order to make sure that he's being honest or she's being honest with you.
Okay. And over to you, sir.
I would say this is something that I always say to Kev, and it's pretty much on the same sort of lines, but I've got two quotes. One is be more Kev. Be more Kev for me is basically me stealing O2's original Be More Cat, but it's Be More Kev. And it's just don't think too much about shit. Just do it. Don't think, just do. And once you get past that point of worrying too much, you'll see the beauty of it. And actually, in order to move forward, you've actually got to have something to produce. You can't go, oh, well, this is going to be amazing when I eventually do it. But if you never actually do it, then you won't have anything to critique. So you need that original product in order to critique and move forward from. You need to know the law of opposites. You need to know what works and what doesn't work. And the only way you do that, again, is from actually having a product. So that would be my kind of general quote from the podcast. But the other thing I'd say, which is really important, and it's a very, very famous quote, and it's be yourself because everybody else is taken. And that's basically me saying, don't try and be, the Gary Neville podcast. Don't try and be the Peter Crouch podcast. That's done. Just do you, because actually you don't necessarily want the fans that listen to Peter Crouch. You want the fans that want to listen to you personally. And that's really important, because once you produce content for yourself and you're doing, it sounds really so airy-fairy, staying true to yourself and you're producing what you really want, then you'll attract the right sort of people who want to buy into you as a personality.
God, you sounds slightly intelligent.
Oh, well,
smile again.
It's like,
smile.
yeah, it's the cod liver oil tablets in the morning.
Beautiful. Well, my own one is simply don't be a dick. That's whatever you do in life, just don't be a dick.
No, that's a good one.
That is a good one, to be fair.
Plus 4 is you, but it's there, isn't it? Okay, so where can the good people out there find you? Social media, wherever. Where are you?
Okay. So we are on Twitter and Facebook, and our tag is at TTHF Podcast. We're on Instagram at TTHF_podcast. We're also on all podcast platforms. So Spotify, iTunes, Deezer, Spreaker, everything. So wherever you get your podcast from, just type in The Talking Heads Footy Podcast and we will come up.
Cool. Okay. Anything for you, Alex, or is Kev done you proud there?
Kev always does me proud. He always says it really well. I do. I stumble over my words. Like, follow us to the TTHFPC
Something.
podcast.
It took Alex about 10 weeks to figure out what we were called. That's how bad it was. He kept calling it the TTHP cast.
It just
But no, that's not what it is. But what I would say to anyone listening, if they don't like football and they don't want to listen to us for football, come along and check out the How I Fell in Love with Sport series that we did during lockdown. We've got some fantastic interviews with celebs, sportsmen, and real fans, and it's full of banter, insight, and literal raw emotion. So it's a great thing to come and listen to if you're listening to this and you're not really that fond of football, but you'd be interested in listening to a really good interview.
Yep, I'd agree on that one as well. Of course I would, because our content.
Yeah, if you just said I disagree, I literally like, what are you talking about?
I'd be like, yeah, guys, if you got half an hour, don't worry about it. Go clean your cupboards or something. Go do something productive with your lives.
No, listen to our podcast.
Yeah,
please.
100%. Yeah,
you can be number 2 listener. I'm joking.
So, is there anything else that you'd like to plug while we're here?
You know what? I know this is non Talking Heads Footy podcast plug-in, but I just really enjoyed the Giant series that Kev often and I talk about, the Giant football series by Mundial, who sadly don't actually release a physical magazine anymore. If you're into football, if you're into stories, it's a great series. And that's just me being nice, because I just think their content's absolutely amazing. It's definitely up there with ours.
Nice, eh?
Classy.
Second place behind that smile of yours, yeah?
Yeah, it is, yeah. My dentist loves my smile.
Sure he does. Fair play. Well, that's pretty much it for us. I'd like to thank you both.
Oh, thank you, Chris.
Taking your time this last hour and a half of your Sunday evening.
Yeah, no, it's been good. I'd say it's all been good, apart from the Aguero thing and also the Bruno Fernandes thing, and Kev talking about all the goals that were scored against Manchester United by Arsenal players. Aside from that, I thoroughly enjoyed myself.
I'm glad. Yeah. Good stuff. Continue to listen to the Talking Heads.
Indeed.
Keep sending over stuff that I see to Kevin, see if he likes it and wants to throw it. And just thank you.
Indeed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was great.
Have a cracking rest of your Sunday as well.
And that is a wrap. Another great interview with the boys from the Talking Heads Footy podcast. It's always a great laugh speaking to them, and I'll continue to listen to their podcast every week. Maybe you could as well. You'll love it. It was a long one, but interested to hear how they took their passion for football and just created a podcast, which has been going for almost a year themselves. If starting a podcast is something you'd like to do, I can help you with that. But I will say, from my own experience, as most people that do have a podcast now, especially if they're doing everything themselves and don't have a big team behind them, it is definitely a big commitment. Most of my free time is dedicated to Learn, Develop, Live, ideas for the podcast, recording content as well, and keeping the website up to date, interesting features. It's all go. I hope you're able to learn something, and if the Learn, Develop, Live method is something that you think could help you, because hey, I guarantee you it will, you just need to come over to the calendar at ldlcall.com, find the slot best for you, and we can have ourselves your very own free 30-minute one-to-one call. As mentioned several times already this week, there is a half-price coaching sale going on, which ends Sunday 25th of October. But, as always, for my dearly beloved podcast listeners, if you're one of those people trying to play catch-up with your podcasts, like I am, and we've gone past the 25th of October, you can still book your call. Just add in coaching sale in the words, and you can still take up that offer. So, for now, thank you for listening. Have a great week. I will see you on the LDL Power Call. You just need to book that slot.
Thank you for listening to In the Spotlight. If you would like to share your inspiring story, please email chris@learndeveloplive.com. For more motivation and inspiration, you can visit learndeveloplive.com, and don't forget to book your free 30-minute LDL power call at ldlcall.com.